people that done all the communicating of God's word to the general people. And this is those three groups of people. You had the priests. The priests, their main obligation, their main responsibility was simply that they gave the law. They said, this is what has to be done. This is the way you're supposed to behave. This is how you're supposed to act and everything like that. So you had the priests that gave the law. You had the prophets, and they really gave direction and correction. They were almost like the police of the priests. You know, they were the strong arm of the law. They went out there when you messed up, made you feel guilty, pointed out your problems, and they told you how to correct that. And usually it came straight from the mouth of God. And so it was really hard to say, okay, no, I ain't going to do it. I don't know if you've ever had to go in front of somebody with authority before, but I remember one time, it's been a long time ago. I was in St. Augustine. I was working for Terminex, and so that's probably been like 35 years ago or something like that. Terry and I were married, so it's somewhere right in there. Anyway, I was in St. Augustine, and I had left the square, and I was heading out of town, past the school and stuff, and I had went through the school zone, and I was sort of like in another world. I wasn't paying attention. And I can't remember the details. I'll just give you generalities. Let's say the speed limit for the school zone was 20. I was going 30. The normal speed zone there was 35. So when the school zone wasn't in, you could go 35. I was doing 5 miles under that. But it was a time of school, even though it's like, you know, there's an hour, but there's only like 15 minutes where the buses and stuff are doing it. So it was before or after that. And so a cop catches me, and the thing is back then, they didn't have it really marked well where it started and where it ended. And so I told the cop, I said, what's wrong? And he said, well, it was a school zone, and you were going too fast. And I said, well, I was under the speed limit. He said, yes, you were. But it's school zone, and so you were going too fast. And he said, I'm going to have to give you a ticket for that. He said, I said, well, I thought, actually, I was already out of it. And I said, there's not a line there where it ends. And he said, well, you have to take all that up with the judge. So, you know, when you first get mad, it's like, or upset, or you think you're wrong, you know, like you're big and brave. Okay, I got this. Yeah, I'm going to go see the judge. I'll tell you, you know. But the more I thought about it, and that time came, and it got closer, I started getting scared, you know, because the judge, you know, and they might throw me into prison for the rest of my life if I'd say the wrong thing or do something. So I'll never forget, because I go walking in there, and I tell the person I'm here to see the judge at the St. Augustine courthouse, you know, and she said, okay, she's in there. I thought, oh, so it's a lady, you know. And so I waited a little bit, and she called me in there, and I walked in there, and she could tell I was nervous and scared, you know. And she said she was probably in her late 60s, maybe early 70s. And as I'm trying to tell her the story and stuff, she's saying, son, you don't have to be scared. Long before I was a judge, I was a mama. And then I've been a grandma, and I got grandkids, and you don't have to be afraid of me. You know, so it began to ease, you know, and I began talking more freely, and I told her what I was doing. I said I wasn't driving erratically. I wasn't driving too fast. I wasn't weaving. I wasn't doing anything. I said I was under the speed limit. I said I just thought I was out of the school zone, and I was still in it. And I said, so then I got even braver, and I said, I thought I was out of it. I said, I don't know where the school zone ends and begins. Do you? And she said, well, I don't, now that you said that, I'm not sure if I'm sure anyway. So anyway, she said, you just go on. If you don't hear from me, you just don't worry about it, you know. And so I went on and never did hear about it, you know. But there was this thought process of the judge, you know. It's just like, I mean, even in here, sometimes y'all will pick at somebody if you see me that I've went and asked somebody to come into my office. It's all of a sudden like, oh, what they do? They're going into the pastor's office while he's shutting the door or something like that, you know. Or if I come up to you and say, I need you in my office a minute, you know, but sometimes it works both ways. Sometimes people come up to me and say, I need to talk to you a little bit, and then I get scared about that too. Even though I'm in my office, I still get scared about it. And so you got the priests, they give the law. You've got the prophets that give direction and correction. And then the last one is sages. Now the sages gave counsel. They were there for wisdom, to help you really interpret and understand everything these other ones were telling you about. Now, in the book of Proverbs and some of the other books around Proverbs, that'd be like Job, Psalms, Ecclesiastes, the Song of Solomon. These are all books that are really written by sages. They're there to impart wisdom to us, an understanding of what some of the other books tell us and some of the other things we've learned. Now, the scholars call these books that I've just mentioned to you the wisdom literature. Now, do you know, don't raise your hands or look around in case a person like that's in here, but have you ever met somebody that, like, they were really book smart, but they was dumb as a brick when it came to just regular stuff, you know? We know people like that, and it's like, how do you get through life? You are so smart, you can quote these things and give compelling thoughts on these things, but then on just normal things of life, it's like you don't have a clue. Well, see, there's a difference between having intelligence and having wisdom. Wisdom is really the understanding of the intelligence, how to put it into use, how to put it into a practical thing that it becomes available to other people and it becomes of something that will advance them and help them. And so it's knowing what to do. I remember one time when I was real young. I was probably about 17. I was taking a long trip, and since this has been so long ago, my memory's a little bit more vague. I can't remember the kind of car I had, but I want to say it was a Ford station wagon. It was my dad's. And I was driving it on a trip, and I pulled up to a gas station. I was in southern Illinois. I was a couple hours away from home. And when I got back into the car after filling it up, it wouldn't start. I said, oh, great. I didn't know nothing about mechanicking. I didn't have the slightest clue on how to get this thing started. And so I mess with it. I'm messing with batteries. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. Nothing's working. Finally, somebody else comes walking up and says, is there something I can help? And I told him what was wrong. He looked at it. He couldn't figure it out. And so I went into the station owner, and he said, well, right across the street over there is a mechanic shop. Walk over there and see, because he said, I can't have you blocking my pumps all day. You got to do something about this, or I'm going to call a wrecker. So I go across the street, and I get to the guy, and I tell him what's going on. So he walks over there. I've already got the hood propped up. He looks at it a minute, and like I said, I'm not this mechanically inclined, but I'll never forget. He looked around, and he found something, and there was like a button in there on the engine somewhere. And he pushed that button, and it was like a reset kind of a button or something. He pushed that, and he said, try it now. It fired right up. I said, oh, thank you. I am so glad. And I'm sitting here in my mind, there's no towing charge. I didn't have to call in a mechanic. I didn't have to take it to a mechanic. I didn't have to leave it with a mechanic. This guy just walked across the street. And so I said, thank you so much. How much do I owe you? But the minute those words came out of my mouth, I'm thinking he's going to say, don't worry about it, because all I did was walk across the street and push a button. He said, that'll be $30. I said, are you serious? All you did was push a button. He said, but I knew which button to push. I said, you got a point there. So you can have intelligence, but wisdom is a little bit more important. And the books of wisdom help us take all these things that God has told through the prophets and the priests and how to apply them to our lives to help us out. The book of Proverbs was what's the word I want to use? Primarily written by who? Does anybody know? Proverbs. Who? Solomon. Solomon, the wisest man that ever lived, wrote the book of Proverbs, but he didn't write it all. And so I want to give you just a little bit of information on this before we get started in the subject matter tonight. In 1 Kings 4, 32 through 34, and this is funny because sometimes we think the only time we're going to talk about Solomon is in the book of Proverbs or Song of Solomon or Ecclesiastes or something like that. But in 1 Kings it says this about Solomon. He spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005. He also spoke about the animals and the birds, about reptiles and fish. From all nations, people came to listen to Solomon's wisdom. And they were sent by all the kings of the world who had heard of his wisdom. So here was a great person to go and figure out the things of life, the deep questions that we have. You would go to Solomon. But here's the thing. He didn't write all the book of Proverbs. Matter of fact, if we look at the authors of Proverbs, this is what we find. Solomon died in 931 BC. Almost 1,000 years before Christ, Solomon dies. So we have to understand that most of the Proverbs then had to be written before he died, but Solomon didn't write all of them. He wrote chapters 1 through 24, But chapters 25 through 29 were compiled 200 years later by men under the authority of King Hezekiah. In Proverbs 25:1, it actually states this. It says, "These are more Proverbs of Solomon compiled by the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah." So 1 through 24, Solomon wrote. He actually wrote 25 through 29, but other men looked at them, read them, gathered them together, and put them into the scrolls at that time. And then Proverbs 30 was written by Agur, son of Jacob, and Psalms 31 was written by King Lemuel. Now, that is interesting that there's other contributors to the book of wisdom. Now, I've said all this because if we are trying to change the direction of our life in 2020, we want things to be different, physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. There's going to be some different paths that we need to take to get there. If we keep going down the same road we went down last year or the year before, it's not going to take us to where we want to go because we haven't got there yet. So evidently, it's not the right road. It's not the right path. And so let me revert to Psalms just a minute and set up our study for tonight. Psalm 16:11 says this, "You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore." David, most likely, is sitting there saying, I need to make an understanding of why I'm here, where am I going, what's my purpose, and you make the path of life known to me. And there's joy and there's pleasures when I'm following that path. So maybe this year, if you're trying to change your life and you're trying to get to a place in your Christian walk that you know you need to be at, that maybe you should have already been there, but you're struggling to get there, and this year you're dedicating it to trying to change up some things to get to the destination that you want to be at, you're going to have to get on the right path. You're going to have to get on the right road. Has there been a time in your life, which my mom used to say this, and so my stepmom Carol, and so there's times Terry will say the same things, there's times I'll say it. She'll use the phrase when she just has to get out of town. She says, I just got to get out of Dodge. I got to get out of Dodge. Have you ever said that? If not saying it, have you ever felt like that? I just got to get out of Center for a little bit. I got to get out of Shelby County for a little bit. I got to have a change of scenery. I just got to go somewhere. Maybe it's something that was planned, or maybe you're one of those people that sometimes, and Terry will do this out of the blue, she'll text me in the middle of the day and say, why don't we just go to Galveston this weekend? I said, today's Friday. Oh, I know, let's just go. Well, I wish life was so uncomplicated that I could literally just do that. There was a time with no responsibilities, no issues, no nothing. Yeah, you could just do that, but it's like, really? That takes a major work of Congress for us to be able to get out of town or something like that, you know. Maybe it's just a night where you've had a rough day, and some of us East Texas people say, you know what, I just got to go hit some dirt roads. You know, I just want to get some music going, give me a soda water, give me a cup of coffee, give me a iced tea. We're going to have some music. We're going to hit the dirt roads, and we're going to go down roads we've never been before. We're not going to look at a map. We're just going to take whatever turn we want and see where we come out at. We've had some of the most interesting times doing that. You know, it's really cool. But it's just like, I got to go somewhere. Something in us is driving us that something has to change. We got to go somewhere. Listen to this little clip of this song, and then we'll move on. It's called Go Somewhere.
Open road, I hear it calling, calling out my name. Wind the window down, I want the wind upon my face. Sunrise and we own the morning. Let's get lost so we can find our way. Take the wheel, why are we waiting? 'Cause I don't wanna stay.
Sometimes it's just nice to go somewhere. But here's the real thing. In our life, if we're trying to change our health, if we're trying to change our spiritual condition, if we're trying to change the way we have relationships, we got to have a destination. We just can't go somewhere, because what's going to happen is we're going to end up having to come back from where we started from, and that's a place that we had to get away from just a while ago. The psalmist says, "You make known to me the path of life." What is a path? It's pretty simple. The explanation, it says a way or a track laid down for walking or made by continual treading. We got to pick out a path that's going to get us to the spot that we want to be. And we have to stay on that path till we get to that destination. There's twists, there's turns, there's hills, there's valleys, there's obstacles. The weather may be against us at times. But if we want to get to that destination, we have to stay on that path till we get there. And this is what I want you to realize. It's a simple little thought, but sometimes these little things, if we write them down, they just reiterate themselves to us every time we look at it. The road you're on determines where you're going to end up. The road you're on determines where you're going to end up. If you're on a road that includes healthy eating and exercise, you will end up where that destination leads you to with a very healthy body and a healthy outlook on life. If you're on the road that says, this year I'm going to be more faithful in church attendance, more faithful reading my Bible, studying and doing things like that. If you get on that road and you stay on that road, even though there's storms along the way, sometimes there's detours, sometimes you get stalled, but you stay on the road and keep heading where that road takes you, you will get where you want to be. If you're having troubles in your relationships and you start taking some classes to counsel and start trying to curb your anger or jealousy or whatever those issues are in your relationship, maybe too controlling or something like that, you get on a road that starts dealing with those things, you will become the person you want to be. The only time it fails is if we totally stop and quit walking, or we turn and get on a different road. And here's the thing, that path, that road is going to have a lot of places on it where you can get off and go different directions. And a lot of times it seems like an easier way to get where we're wanting to go, but the thought remains the same. The road you're on determines where you're going to end up. Say I want to go to Cancun. A bunch of you might want to go with me, but I say, Terry, let's go to Cancun. We pack, we prepare, we start out on our journey, but we start heading north. You know what's going to happen? I'm going to end up in Canada, not Cancun. I packed. I was prepared. I wanted to do this. I began moving, but I wasn't on the right road. I wasn't going the right direction. My intentions are good. I intend to go to Cancun. I want to get a suntan. I want to lay on the beach. So even though my intentions are good and I've done everything that you need to do to go on a trip, I go in the wrong direction. I'm never going to get to Cancun. I'm going to end up in Canada. It doesn't matter how good your intentions are. Your direction, not your intention, determines your destination. How many have heard the saying, oh, well, they had good intentions? Good. Put good intentions in this hand and put $500 in this hand. See which one does you the best. Good intentions don't cut it. They're not good enough. A lot of people, January is the month of good intentions. I intend to change my life. I intend to get more healthy. I intend to be more faithful to God. I intend to get rid of some habits. I intend to do this. But by February, all those intentions haven't got nowhere. So your direction you're going, not your intention of what you really want, is what finally determines your destination. Your intentions may be to do all the right things, but if we're on the wrong road, you're not going to get to where you want to be. And as obvious as that is in the world of geography, it's the same in the path of our lives. Doesn't matter whether it's your family, your finances, your education, your physical health, the same principle applies. In all things, my direction, not my intention, will cause me to arrive at my destination. Because sometimes your intentions will change. Because we start facing adversity. And all of a sudden, our intentions, though they were driving us a while ago, we're tempted to get off the road. You know, I could stop with my intentions and still keep going on that same road. Sometimes we have to deny and forget the intentions and just keep driving and pushing forward and pushing through. Because our intentions get weakened by the storm. Our intentions get weakened by life. Dawn, there was probably some times that you maybe didn't really feel like studying, taking tests, doing all the things she needed to do to advance to the spot she is in the nursing program. But she stayed on the road and she got there. Graduation happened because she stayed on the road. It's not your intentions, it's not your strengths, it's not your weaknesses, it's not your hopes, your dreams. It's your direction that you're facing that will determine your destination. You know, there's a scripture that talked about Jesus when he was determined to go to Jerusalem, even though it meant death. It said he set his face like a flint towards Jerusalem. I mean, nothing was going to dissuade him. Nothing was going to change his course. He had set his mind and heart on a direction, and that direction was going to take him to Jerusalem, and that direction was going to take him to his death. But that direction got him to the destination. Because it did, we enjoy the freedom of salvation today. Have you ever maybe been talking with somebody and they begin to tell you how their life just got so screwed up and it's shipwrecked and their marriage blew up, their kids are a mess, and they're describing all the things that got them to that spot, and you're standing there and you're just sort of thinking, well, why didn't you see this coming? What you've just told me, I knew what the end of the story was going to be before you even got there because of the direction you were headed. There was no other outcome possible other than what did happen because of the direction you were going. Well, Solomon gives us one of these stories tonight that we're going to be talking about. Well, didn't you see that coming kind of a moment? And it comes out of Proverbs chapter 7, verses 6 through 27. But in Proverbs 7:6, to start off the story, and we're going to be going there in just a second. And Phil, I actually need to read because I didn't print that up for me today, so I'll go ahead and read it, what you got. If you'll just pull up 6 through 9. Solomon's about to tell us a story. And we don't know if it's a true story, one he's just making up to give encouragement, counseling, advice. He is a sage after all. But what we do know is this: he's telling this story. He's standing at a window looking down at the street. So Solomon is standing there and he's looking out his window. He's in an upper level and he's looking down into the street, and this is what he sees. It says, "At the window of my house I looked down through the lattice, and I saw among the simple, I noticed among the young men a youth that had no sense." And everybody said amen to that. There's a whole boatload of them everywhere you go. Youth with no sense. They think they know everything. And we've got a couple of them in here I could point out. But you're young, you think you know it all. When you get to our age, you'll realize how little you did know and how smart we really were. But Solomon's looking down there, and let me just paraphrase a little bit. If you're the wisest man in the world, everybody looks stupid. But these really look stupid. They were stupider. And so he's saying, daggum, that kid there ain't got a lick of sense. I've seen some dumb people in my life, but this one takes the cake. Verse 8, he was going down the street near her corner. Now, in today's language, we know what happens when a lady has a corner. Same back then. You dummy, you ain't got no sense. You're going close to her corner. Walking along in the direction determines your destination. Walking in the direction of her house. Not only to her corner, but to her house. At twilight, He's waiting until dark. He's waiting until dusk. The times when the things that we know we shouldn't be doing, we feel more comfortable because maybe we won't be seen. We don't realize Solomon's at the window watching us. At twilight, as the day was fading, as the dark night set in. You don't have to be a Bible scholar to anticipate where this story's going, do you? A young guy cruising the streets at sunset, heading in the direction of a specific woman's home. We're soon going to find out that he knew who this woman was. He knew she was already married. And apparently he knew that her husband was out of town and that she would be prowling around the street corner looking for... Let your imagination take over. That alone should have been enough to stop this young man in his tracks. But it didn't. In fact, it's the very reason he was heading this direction. There was a purpose. There was a reason. He wanted to be in part of this indiscretion. He wanted this moment to happen. And so on purpose, he's heading in a direction, and it's going to take him somewhere. And the wisdom of Solomon is looking down and saying, you stupid child, you don't know where this direction is going to take you. You think your destination is going to be here, but your destination is going to be much worse. In fact, this was the very reason he was headed in a direction in his mind. Maybe the song was playing that he was going to party like a rock star. Maybe the song, Born to be Wild, was running through his mind. Either way, he knew this was going to be a night to remember and a morning to brag about the next day to his friends. But all the while, back at the window, Solomon's watching this young man. There's a song playing in his mind, too. The theme for Jaws. Why? Because there's a marked contrast between what the kid was expecting to experience and what Solomon, his wisdom, knew would hold in his future. Solomon, the older, wiser man, knew from experience where this path would take him. The young man only saw an exciting night of passion. Something that was disconnected from the rest of his life. But can I tell you, your indiscretions, your momentary... Let me just say something, and I'll just let the chips fall where they lay. You decide whether this is the priest, the prophet, or the sage talking. I used to have a problem with alcohol, so in my mind, you shouldn't drink because you don't know where that path's going to lead you one day. Nobody plans to be an alcoholic. But anyway, Caitlin had seen one day this article written by an Assembly of God pastor who used to be an alcoholic, and it was titled 50 Reasons Why I Don't Drink. And she shared that, and several other people did too. I had already read it a couple of years ago because I got it in a publication from the Assemblies of God. But one of them in there I really liked. I mean, they were all good, but there was one that really put it in there. For the people that say, well, I just occasionally do it, or I'm a moderate drinker. And his response to that question was this: well, if moderate drinking's okay, what about moderate pornography? What about moderate adultery? If occasionally it's right, well then what about occasional gambling, occasional pornography, or occasional adultery, or a one-night stand? If it's wrong for one, it's probably wrong for the other. You see, Solomon knows that there's a danger that we think we know the destination, but that path is filled with warnings and dangers and snares, and he's looking down at this young boy who thinks it's disconnected from the rest of his life. But there's been a lot of people that a one-night stand ruined a marriage and a family and destroyed the whole thing. There's been a lot of people that one moment in life, 1 hour of indiscretion destroyed their lives. Maybe one night they drank too much and had a wreck. Maybe they killed somebody. All these things. And Solomon in his wisdom is looking down. You don't have no sense. You think you're just going to have a one-night stand. It's going to be fun. And life is going to continue. But you don't know the destination that this road will take you on. A night disconnected from the rest of his life, but Solomon knew better. You see, this night was a step down a path. The path of his life was a normal life. He was a young man. He was getting an education. He was learning skills. He was going through life to prepare him for a happy life. But along the path, on the right direction, there was a detour. There was a side road. There was a road that went to the right or to the left. And he thought, well, you know what? It's still sort of going the direction I'm going. I'm going this way. It's still sort of going that way. So what does it hurt if I take a few steps off the path? The thing is once we get off the path, you know how many people that they have to search the mountains and the forest for because they've gotten lost? They simply said, I stepped off the path. Well, that's stupid. There it is. But you see, once you get off the path, the enticements never stop. It looks better and better, and it keeps luring us further and further away till finally we look back and we can't see the way back home. We can't see where we need to be. And Solomon understands this. And so that night, Solomon understood this was a step down a path, and a path, like all paths, leads somewhere. This particular path had a predictable destination. And you don't need to be the wisest man in the world to know that. Isn't it funny when something's obvious to those that are watching our life is so impossible to see in our own path? Don't raise your hands, but how many times have you known somebody and looked at somebody and said, man, if they don't change, it's going to catch up to them. It's going to cost them. There's going to be a high price to pay. Why can't they see that? Why don't they open their eyes? Don't they see their marriages being destroyed? Don't they see that they're pushing their kids out? Don't they see they're going down this path? Most of the time, no, because they only see the moment before them. It looks so good. The Bible says sin is pleasurable for a season. How long's a season? I don't know. It can be one night. It could be 1 week. It could be 1 month. It could be 10 years. But there is a time frame when there has to be a paying up of the tab. And oh, is it horrendous. Oh, does it ever cost. This boy didn't see he was on a dangerous path, but it was very obvious to Solomon looking out his window. The story continues. Verses 10 through 12. Then out came a woman to meet him, dressed like a prostitute. Now you see, she stepped out on a path too. She should know better. But like misery loves company and it takes two to tango, it's no fun being by herself. So she steps out of the house. And she's dressed like a prostitute. And with crafty intent. She didn't accidentally do this. Oh, I just threw this together. I didn't know it looked so sexy. I know that wasn't a sexy look. Got your attention though, didn't it? There's a certain part of me, and this may be coming from a man, so I don't want that to be taken wrong. But as my thought process goes, women, if you dress too inappropriately, don't act so shocked when you get responses to it, okay? If nothing else, you should know the way a man's eyes and heart and mind works when he sees visual cues. If you don't want the unwanted attention, don't dress that will bring unwanted. But it makes me look good. Well, to me, then you got a problem. You should only be looking good for your husband or your man. And if you're trying to catch a man, you ain't going to catch the kind of man you want to catch. They're trash fish. Coals, you got to get rid of them things anyway. Okay, let me get off that soapbox. She came out to meet him dressed like a prostitute with crafty intent. This was her purpose. She wanted to do this. It goes on, says she was loud, or some say unruly, whatever. She was loud and defiant. Her feet never stayed at home. It's really talking about her heart. Now in the street, now in the squares, in every corner she looks. Now another song begins to play. Beethoven's Ninth, and the impending sound of fate knocking. Doom, 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 doom. We know something's about to happen. Verses 13 through 15, she takes hold of him and kissed him. And with a brazen face she said, I have fellowship offerings at home. Today I fulfilled my vows. So I came out to meet you. I looked for you, and I have found you. Ain't that a strange thing to be saying? What's she talking about? Fellowship offerings and fulfilling vows? Oh, she was faithful to her husband before he left. She took care of the home life. She took care of that part of it. The fellowship. When this woman said she had fellowship offerings at home, she was really saying, look, I'm not that kind of woman. I'm not a hooker. I'm not a prostitute. I've got plenty of money at home. I'm not after your money. I just want you. It's all about you. She was also implying that she had been to the temple and everything squared away from God. I have my fellowship offerings at home today. I prayed. I took care of everything. I'm a good person. Having taken her sin bucket and dumped it out at the altar, she was ready to fill it up again. You see, too many of us, we come to church to empty our bucket of our wrongdoings and our faults and our problems. We feel so much better, but we carry an empty bucket back out there with us, and it's not long before we fill it back up. This young guy's thinking, if only my friends could see me now. Even if Solomon were to holler out that window and warn him, you wouldn't have paid attention or even heard it over the seductive words that the woman came next. You know, the devil knows. Once the devil, I'm going to go ahead and tell him this, Phil. We went, Terry and I we won a trip and went on a cruise one time. Kids were all jealous. We said, well, if we like it and it's good, we'll go ahead and take you on one later. So we went on another cruise and took the kids. Well, then one day Kim and Phil said they wanted to go on one. So we all went on a cruise together. And one day the women, they're down in the cabins, and Phil and I, it was towards supper time. They might have been changing, getting ready for the supper. I can't remember. We decided to go up on deck. Well, on deck in the summertime, them people have been drinking all day long. And there was an older lady, which by that I meant older than me and Phil. At that time, we were probably in our 30s, maybe. Well, I probably would have been like 32, 33, 35 maybe. Phil was a little bit younger. And we go walking on this deck, because drunk people are fun to watch. And so we said, we'll just go up there and watch some of these people. And we come walking out into that thing. And there's this older lady, and she's in a bikini, and she's sitting on the edge of the pool. And she sees me and Phil come out that doorway out to the pool. All of a sudden, she starts going. We go. we getting out of here. We had a little bit of wisdom. We had a little bit of sense. But you see, once we get off the right path onto the wrong path, the devil starts being very enticing, and he makes it look good. And, oh, come on, just a little bit closer. Oh, it ain't going to hurt you. Surely you're not going to die. Remember that conversation with Eve? So this is what she says in verses 16 through 18. Come here, honey. I've covered my bed with colored linens from Egypt. But she's saying they're silky, they're soft. Not only that, I've perfumed my body with myrrh and aloes, and who can resist cinnamon? Oh my God, she's got cinnamon on her. Who can resist that? I'll tell you Sunday if one night this week Terry tempts me with cinnamon or not. I've covered my bed with colored linens from Egypt, the silk. I perfumed my body with myrrh and aloes and cinnamon. Come, let's drink deep of the love till morning. Let's enjoy ourselves with love. How is a young, stupid kid going to deny that? How's he going to turn that down? I got to try to hurry a little bit, but I think we're going to be in a good enough time. I've told you this before, but, there's always someone in every service that hasn't heard a story a pastor said, so the rest of you just have to stick with it. There was a person that used to be in my youth group when I was youth pastor. It was a guy, and there was one time we were talking, a discussion about sin and temptation and all that kind of stuff, and he literally said this. He said this to me. He said, well, I'm just going to tell you the truth. I'm going to be straight up with you. If I walk into a bedroom and there's a naked lady standing on there, sitting on that bed, I don't know if I could resist it. I told him, I said, do you know how many doors you had to enter through before you got to that room with that? That just don't happen. You're just not going to walk in one day and there's a naked woman laying in your bed. There was a lot of times that led up to that where you had an opportunity to say, no, we don't need to go no further. This is not me. This is not right. I'm this or that. It's just not going to happen. You're just not going to be there. And it's going to happen. Literally, this dumb, stupid boy, it did happen to him. He was hoping, but he's walking down the street, and there she is, and all these temptations, and the door is wide open. And Solomon's looking through this window and said, if you would have never went down that road, every alcoholic, every drug addict, every gambler, every person that's done wrong things, they will tell you, I never thought back then it would lead to this today. The wisdom of Solomon recognized that. We're talking about paths, we're talking about roads, we're talking about changing ourselves. What we're going to get into next week is so many times we say we want to do something, but then we do the exact opposite. We want to go down this road and change our lives and be a better person, but then we veer off on wrong roads. It's not the intent of your heart. God's not going to look at you and say, we had a lot of good intentions. He's wanting to know if you're getting on the right road and you're trying to stay on that road with the best that you can do, the best of your ability. The simple-minded, young, at this opportunity, he was probably saying, wow, while Solomon's looking down and saying, whoa. Wonder how many times that's the conversation that we have? We see something and it's enticing and we want to do that. We know it's wrong. It's not the path we should be on. But it sounds so good. It smells so good. It looks so good. And we're saying, wow. And God's up there saying, whoa, whoa. Just in case this young man was still having second thoughts. Now just let's go back up a minute. Second thoughts. I don't think he had second thoughts by this time. She come out dressed like a prostitute. She's sly and slick. She took a hold of him. She kissed him. Said, I've taken care of my home life. I don't need your money. It's all about you. I've been looking for you. I'm in love with you. I've covered my bed with linens. I perfume my body. Let's make love till the morning. Then she don't stop there, which she didn't have to say no more, I guarantee it. But she goes on, she says, not only that, my husband is not at home. He's gone on a long journey. He took his purse filled with money, and he ain't going to be back till the full moon. So we don't have not just tonight, we got the whole weekend, baby. I'll cook you breakfast in the morning. You can watch TV in my luxurious house. From this young boy's standpoint, it's just getting better and better. But there's Solomon in his wisdom looking down, shaking his head, knowing the path that he's on is about to destroy him and kill him and ruin him. What do you think Solomon was thinking as he watched this? We're going to finish the story next week. He's watching it unfold. He sees the boy leave his house over here, and he begins walking towards town. He sees him heading to the wrong place, to her corner and her house. Solomon already knows that that her husband's gone and what kind of a person she is. He sees how vulnerable he is to this temptation. I'm sure he would love to say, don't go down that street. Take this other street over here. That's the right street to go on. That's a street that'll change your life. That's a street that will make you a prosperous, well-educated, well-founded, great person in your future. That road will lead to destruction. You don't see the connection. You think just one night, one moment. But I'm telling you, it can destroy your life. A direction. A path to a destination, an intention gone awry. Now you see, there's another word we don't use too much, but when I was putting this together, that word came up. The good intentions were there, but the intentions went awry. You see, he might have just thought, well, I just want to go and talk. My girlfriend broke up with me. I just want to go talk I just need some female companionship. I just want to go talk. But you see, that intention of just maybe doing that, all of a sudden is going to turn into something much bigger. An intention gone awry. So I looked up, I said, wow, we don't use that word much. What does awry mean? It's A-W-R-Y. It means away from the appropriate, the planned, or the expected course. I don't think God put that word in my heart. randomly. Because if we're talking about a path and a destination and the changes we want to make, and the only way to do that is to be on the right road, because only that road will get us to that destination. If I want to go to Cancun but I head north, I'm not going to get there. I'm going to go to Canada. So my good intentions have went awry because I've made some bad choices, and that means I've went away from the appropriate, I went away from the planned, and I went away from my expected course. Can I remind you before I close this out tonight that it's your direction, not your intention, that determines your destination. You know, you can say, and let me just use this in a spiritual way, because just as many people, I believe in my heart, as being a pastor for this October will be my 10th year of being pastor, and being an assistant pastor for 12 years before that, what I have seen in people's lives is just as predominant as making a healthy decision in January. Christians make spiritual decisions in January. It's just as predominant. For every one person that says, well, I'm going to try to be healthier this year, I guarantee you there's just at least one or more that say, I'm going to try to get closer to God this year. And just like buying exercise equipment that in February is sold and says never used and like new, there's Bibles and apps that are the same way. You know, the only way to get spiritually better than you were last year is to get on the path. And I'm just going to say this here because you're here, so I believe you're either members of this church or you like this church. Get on the road that brings you to this church every time you can. You see, if you're able to and you don't, you have just went down the wrong path that service time. I don't think God's going to leave you at home if the rapture happens, but I sure don't want to be caught in the wrong places, sleeping, doing the wrong thing. I wonder if he won't come at church time on purpose. I don't know. No man knows the hour or the time, and of course all around the world it's different times, but if you're not on the right road, I want to be a better person, but yet every time service comes up, you're not on the road to church. You're on the road to the recliner. You're on the road to the bed. You're on the road, some people you have to work long hours. Don't take this as an across-the-board thing. I'm just making a lot of excuses for a lot of people. You're on the road to the television. You're on the road to go out to eat. You're on the road to go visit family. You're on the road to be on your phone all night or on the computer all night. You're not on the road to change the life that you said you need to change. Truth or not? If you're not on the road, if you don't have, I want to read my Bible more, but you can't even find the Bible in your house, you're not on the right road. You want to start reading your Bible more? Put a Bible by your chair, put a Bible by your bed, put a Bible on the back of your commode. So you're always going to be on the right road. Don't have your good intentions go awry because you're not on the right path. Because let me just tell you something. We are all going somewhere. We're headed somewhere. No matter where we're at or what we're doing, we are headed somewhere with our life. Our life is going somewhere. If we want it to be better in 2020, if we want something to change, then we have to get on a different road than we used to be on. And this song I'm going to end it with, it's one I found, and I really liked it. It's a country group, all-girl group called High Road, and the song is called Going Somewhere. And it's really talking about family. Then it talks a little bit about heaven. But the words that I liked is that it's not where I'm from, but where I'm going. You see, to make the change in your life, whether it's health, it's not the way you used to be. It's not where you're from, it's where you're going. What's going to make 2020 different? Your destination, where you're going this year, has to be different than where before, and that means you have to be on the right road. So just listen to this song and then we'll pray out for tonight. Going Somewhere by a group called High Road. It's a Southern gospel group. They've actually sang with Jason Crabb a couple of times.
Front porch swing is creaking in a lazy lazy summer wind. I'm racing barefoot through the front yard as Mama calls us in. Laughter echoes from the kitchen. I can smell the chicken fry. I sure wouldn't waste a minute if I could get back there tonight. Whenever people ask where's home, I tell them about a place with family ties and memories that time cannot erase. I know the road that takes me there, where the gate is standing open. See, home's not just somewhere I'm from, it's somewhere I'm going. I can still see all the faces behind that old screen door. I know they're all waiting, they're just on a distant shore. So Jasper walls and mansions aren't the answers to my prayers. The love that made it heaven here will make it heaven there. Whenever people ask where's home, I tell them about a place with family ties and memories that time cannot erase. I know the road that takes me there, where the gate is standing open. See, home's not just somewhere I'm from, it's somewhere I'm going. They say home is where the heart is, and I believe it's true. 'Cause my heart's with the one I know and the one I'm heading to. Whenever people ask where's home, well, I tell them about a place, the family ties and memories that time cannot erase. I know the road that takes me there, where the gate is standing open. See, home's not just somewhere I'm from. Home's not just somewhere I'm from. It's somewhere I'm going.
Would you stand with me and let us go ahead and pray? Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, there's so much truth. There's so much counsel. There's so much wisdom. Lord, there's some of us in here that we've been on both sides of that spectrum. Lord, as we have marched on through life, we have found ourselves in the path of the young man. And Lord, maybe now, through bad experiences and hard times and tough decisions, we find ourselves in the place of Solomon, looking down and wishing to scream out. The road you're on is filled with danger and traps and snares. It looks so good, sounds so good, it's so enticing, but that road will not take you to where you really need to be and where you want to go. But there is a path. Lord, the psalmist, we started off with that you have the path of life. Lord, your word says that it's a light unto my path and a lamp unto my feet. It shows us the way to go. And Lord, if we're not on the right road, going the right direction, we can never end up at the right place. Lord, many tonight in here have probably made a decision to change some part of their life, physically, spiritually. And Lord, their intentions are good. But even with good intentions, if they're on the wrong road, they can't get there. I intended to go to Cancun. I was ready. I was packed. I was prepared. I'd done everything, but I went the wrong direction. Tonight, Lord, it's all about the direction. If we really want to get to a certain destination in some aspect of our life, we have to get on the right road. And Lord, sometimes that road is not an easy road. Nowhere does your word say that it's going to be an easy road. but it definitely leads to where we want to be. And it is worth every step we take. Lord, be with us tonight as we depart this place. Lord, let these words ring in our minds, bring truth to our hearts. Lord, that we may be able to make the changes that we so desire to make. Let your Spirit guide us. Let it be our GPS. Lord, that we always stay on the right path. Lord, that as a GPS is supposed to recognize true north, Lord, our spiritual GPS recognizes true north to the Holy Spirit. We thank you for these words, Lord, for they encourage us, they uplift us, and they will get us to our destination. We thank you for it, and we praise you for it. In Jesus' name, amen.